For numbers 3 and 5, you were asked to find the reference angles. One of them was in degrees, one of them was in radians. Let's kind of go over the basics here first. So when we find a reference angle, especially one that's in between 0 and 360, then we can follow these rules here to find it. So if it's in the first quadrant, because it's an acute angle in the first quadrant, it's just going to be the same. The second quadrant, we just subtract the angle from 180, and in the third quadrant, we subtract 180 from the angle. In the fourth quadrant, we subtract the angle from 360. So remember, the reference angle is the acute angle that's always formed with the x-axis. Now, let's make a comment here. If my angle doesn't lie in between 0 and 360 degrees, we can always find a coterminal angle. And if we get it in radians, probably the best idea here is to draw it. And to draw it, usually if it's in pi, or in terms of pi, then you can write pi on your unit circle. For instance, right there in my unit circle, instead of pi, we may want to call it like 5 pi over 5, okay, or 10 pi over 10, whatever denominator that my fraction in terms of pi is given. That's how I'm going to write that, and that way I can find out what quadrant it's in to find the reference angle. Now, let's do the two that were on this test, numbers 3 and 5 here. So number 3 was in degrees, but it didn't lie in between 0 and 360. So you had to find a coterminal angle. And so I'm going to subtract 360 first. And so that's going to leave me with 232 degrees. And so 232 degrees is not my reference angle. That's the coterminal angle. So notice 232 degrees here would be in the third quadrant. Okay, it's in between 180 and 270. So now all I have to do is take the angle and subtract 180 from it to get the reference angle. So 232 minus 180 is going to give me 52. So the reference angle there was 52 degrees. Now on number 5, you were asked to find the reference angle for 5 pi over 7. So notice that this is in radians here. So we're going to do kind of like what I did right here, is I'm going to write pi in terms of the denominator of the fraction. This was 5. Now in this case, the denominator was 7. So I'm going to draw my little unit circle here. And so right here at pi, since this is over 7, we're going to think of that as 7 pi over 7. And so now we can fill in the rest of the circle here. Halfway to 7 pi over 7 would be 3.5 pi over 7. So every 90 degrees is 3.5 pi over 7. This would make this one down here 10.5 pi over 7. And so now let's find 5 pi over 7. It's going to be somewhere here in the second quadrant. So now let's find our reference angle. So notice, or remember that the reference angle is the acute angle formed with the x-axis. So the acute angle formed with the x-axis would be the angle that I'm drawing here. And so if I go from 5 pi over 7 to 7 pi over 7, that's a difference there of 2 pi over 7. So the reference angle there is 2 pi over 7.